Hi, my name's Amanda Henderson, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my thesis. Um, the title is called Ilegal, and it's about the effects of illegal immigration on citizen children of undocumented workers. This is an issue that is a hot topic in our country, uh, particularly immigration and the undocumented immigration of Latinos. There is great concern about the effects of illegal immigration on this country, and there are widely varying views, opinions, and definitions included in this complex problem. There are discussions, questions, disagreements. One thing is for certain, this is a problem that cannot be ignored because it affects the everyday life of many citizens, particularly children citizens of illegal immigrants. Specifically, this thesis will explore the effects of these varying views, discussions, and disagreements on the lives of citizen children of illegal parents, and asks how these effects carry over into their personal lives, homes, schools, and communities. Is it more important to empower and reconcile these children or outlaw and alienate them? This thesis would argue that there is positive purpose in empowerment and reconciliation and danger in outlawing and alienating. This question is valid for our society now and in the future because these citizens make up a significant portion of our population. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Latinos are the largest ethnic minority population in the United States, making up 16.7% of our total population. More than 10 million children in the United States are children of immigrants, and it's estimated that 9 million live in families with at least one undocumented immigrant and one child citizen. These citizens grow into the adult members of our society who will either be empowered and reconciled, contributing citizens, or they can be outlawed and alienated citizens. They are workers and taxpayers for the future economy of this nation. This is a problem that is not only complex, but even wicked in nature. Determining whether or not a problem is complex is key in determining whether or not an interdisciplinary approach is necessary in seeking a solution or even understanding the problem. When considering the issues that come along with the problem of illegal immigration and its effects on second-generation children, there is more than one legitimate way to look at the problem. And there are several different disciplines that are interested in this issue. It cannot be fully explained using one discipline, and it is a demanding need in our society that has no current resolution. Therefore, it requires an interdisciplinary approach. The three areas that I use to approach this problem are political science, sociology, and human development and family studies. First, we'll look at some of the insights of political science. When considering the aspects of illegal immigration and its effects on citizen children, policies, immigration laws, and human rights discussions that affect it must be taken into consideration for a deepened understanding to occur. Human rights are important in this discussion because they directly affect the lives of illegal immigrant families. It's important to note that there is, in fact, a stigma surrounding undocumented immigrants, and I'm not sure many of us would argue with that. The research does not argue the fact that their entry to the country was illegal, but more the association of that to the word criminal. There's a claim that because of this stigma, people are okay with the human rights of illegal immigrants being ignored. It is also argued that immigrants are considered a subclass of people, and because of this, their human rights can be ignored as well. It's interesting that according to the Pew Research Center in 2014, only 17% of Americans supported deportation of all undocumented immigrants. In spite of this, critics of illegal immigrants still argue that undocumented immigration imports criminals that burden society economically and socially. Because immigrants are considered criminals, they're forced to fly under the radar when their human rights are infringed upon. They cannot lawfully defend themselves. Apart from the human rights of illegal immigrants, it's also important to consider the birthright citizenship of their children. The view of birthright citizenship is dependent on one's interpretation of the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment declares that all persons who are born in the United States are citizens of the country and the state in which they live, thus ensuring them all the privileges and immunities of an American citizen. Pretty much narrows it down to two viewpoints. Those for birthright citizenship argue that it was constitutionally intended, while those who argue against birthright citizenship argue that it encourages illegal immigration. This argument is important to this discussion, and it's troubling, as the citizen children could be treated differently and given different rights because of their parents' immigration status despite their own U.S. citizenship. This argument would only emphasize that they are a subclass of citizens, furthering deepening racial bias and prejudice. There's also insights of sociology to consider. This complex problem is social in nature. As a heated topic, it affects not only society, but the individual. In an article written by Portes and Fernandez Kelly on educational and occupational achievement of the children of immigrants, they discuss immigrant assimilation to the culture of the United States. And they identify three main factors that determine the success of second-generation immigrants in being assimilated into society. These are human capital that immigrant families bring with them, so money, the social context in which they are received, so support when they get here, and the composition of their own immigrant family. Those are the three things that help in the upward assimilation of immigrants to the culture here. The huge discrepancy is that generally this is not what illegal immigrants look like. According to this article, American sociologists consider the path to success one for educated, wealthy people. Undocumented immigrants rarely have an education, are not received into good social contexts, and many times come from families that are broken up by immigration and deportation. The question is how this translates for the citizen children of illegal immigrants. If our society is unable or unwilling to invest in upward assimilation of this part of the population, then our society as a whole will be affected. There's a book by Chomsky called Undocumented: How Immigration Became Illegal. And Chomsky argues that U.S. immigration policy is fundamentally the same now as it was 100 years ago. Enforcement is still less a way to stop immigration than it is a tool to turn the immigrants into a vulnerable, easily exploitable workforce. The difference is that now, instead of being called temporary and nomadic, the immigrant worker has become illegal. In other words, immigration has always been the same, only the way that this society looks at it and speaks about it has changed. By making undocumented workers illegal, society has made it easy to exploit their workforce without fear of repercussion. It's because of this exploitation that many illegal immigrant families live in a constant state of fear and repression for themselves and their children. And it can be understood from this document that not only has society given undocumented immigrants the name illegal, but a face as well. And this idea can also be supported in a study performed by Brown. He documents in his article a study about the attitudes of European American white children between the ages of 5 and 11 towards three things: towards immigrants, immigration policies, and what it means to be an American. This study was performed in an after-school program where they interviewed children, and the findings of this study suggest that children hold biases against immigrants and particularly consider immigration status as an important distinction. Results from this study indicated that children specifically held differential attitudes about immigrants based on their country of origin, specifically Mexican immigrants being the ones viewed most negatively. Children view Mexican immigrants as people who make less money, who are less smart, and who they least want to go to school with. This study shows that there's a deep-rooted bias in the society specifically against Latino undocumented immigrants, and that it's even affecting children in our schools. This is an aspect that would affect the daily life of a child citizen of illegal immigrants, making it more difficult to achieve the social skills necessary for success as they battle feelings in school of being unwanted and even disliked because of their undocumented parents and their ethnicity. It is also seen that negative media portrayals add to this hostile context at the level of both formal institutions and at the level of public discourse. Because of the portrayals at all levels, harsh measures are easier to practice and accept by the public because immigrants are set forward as problems. An interesting aspect of this is that Central American and Mexican immigrants, their response to these attitudes. It was found that in order to distance themselves from these negative portrayals, undocumented immigrants try to shape their identities as hard workers and remove themselves from the image of being a criminal. According to the article that this study came from, in spite of efforts to prove otherwise, undocumented members of society, they live in a hostile environment that subjects them to exploitation and racism. I also, in my study, included insights from human development and family studies. The study of human development in the family is an important perspective to consider in approaching this problem. This is applicable in considering the growth and development of citizen children of undocumented immigrants as they face growing up in hostile environments set forth for them by their country. The importance of strong family systems and emotional support is vital to their developmental journey. Rubio Hernandez and Ayon did a study on the effects of anti-immigration policies on the children of illegal immigrants or on the children in families with undocumented members. The study found that the challenges that these families face are economic insecurity, barriers to education, arrest and deportation of family members, poor health outcomes, and discrimination. Economic insecurity is elevated because of high levels of unemployment. In Arizona, immigration policies impose barriers to education by disqualifying undocumented students for in-state tuition, financial aid, and even mandating English-only education. Undocumented workers are arrested in raids, leaving behind citizen children and leading to family separation, which in turn negatively impacts their development, these kids' development and health. It was discovered in this study that the main responses that kids have to this lifestyle are concern and a sense of responsibility. They feel responsible for their families, fear and hypervigilance, always on edge, sadness and crying, and depression. These responses can greatly affect a child's development, can hinder their ability to make secure attachments, to trust others, and to develop emotional and social skills that are necessary to success over the long term. According to human development and family studies experts, many studies show that academic success is linked to learning emotional regulation skills. And when kids are under stress, it's more difficult to remember and understand what they're learning. Schools can in turn help children develop emotional competence and improve academic achievement through quality of relationships with peers and teachers, and in this way they can also decrease behavior problems. As citizen children of undocumented immigrants are under constant stress from their family situations, schoolmate perceptions, fears of deportation, and other issues discussed, their emotional development is hindered, thus affecting other areas of their education and relationships. This sets a precedent that is difficult to undo as a child grows up and attempts to navigate hostile social climates as an adult. Okay, so I'm just going to finish up with this. Creating a more comprehensive understanding of this problem is key to coming close to finding solutions. So much opinion is wrapped up in prejudice and bias that sadly are an ingrained characteristic of the population of the United States. In order to understand the problem, the first step is in understanding and acknowledging these deep-rooted issues. This is not a hard thing to consider, as it has been the topic of much debate in this country even in recent years. With racism at the root of many policies and attitudes, it is no surprise that this nation creates a hostile environment in which the citizen children of illegal immigrants are raised. This in turn causes fear, stress, depression, anxiety, extreme senses of responsibility, anger, and responses that stunt emotional development of children. This then affects their ability to perform well in school, to create meaningful and lasting relationships, and to become productive and responsible members of society. This research has shown that this country has created a hostile atmosphere that alienates and outlaws a big portion of its population that would better serve society if they were instead empowered and reconciled. Considering the size of the population of illegal immigrants and the growing population of their citizen children, this is not a problem that would disappear if all illegal immigrants were deported overnight. That would only compound the problem for these citizen children, as most of them would be left without their only support system in an environment that is hostile to them. If their parents all attain citizenship overnight, the same issues would still be relevant because of the deep-rooted issues of prejudice that are undercurrents of the culture in the United States. The effects of the varying views, discussions, and disagreements on the lives of citizen children of illegal parents is pervasive and detrimental to their success as empowered members of society. These effects carry over into their personal lives, homes, schools, and communities through public opinion and policies that create fear and doubt in their daily lives. It is more important to empower and reconcile these children than outlaw and alienate them. There is a positive purpose in empowerment and reconciliation and danger in outlawing and alienating. Thanks for having a listen. Y'all have a good one.